Okay, so welcome everybody. I hope you can hear and see just fine. Otherwise, give me a shout out. Um, as I was introduced, I'm gonna be talking about virtual creativity. So how real are digital worlds? As was mentioned earlier, we live in a world with mixed realities. So we have a lot of digital reality in our everyday life, but we still are physical people. So I'm gonna start with a computer game that I came across some years before, and I really like that. It's called One Shot. It's an indie 2D adventure PC game from 2016 that sets the main character Nico in a strange dark world that needs central lightning fixed. So it gets darker and darker, and you have to change that in the game. You control a cat-like fantasy figure as a hero, but still are addressed by them in tricky situations. So let's have a 1 minute video overview of that. So you see this Nico person is heading to solve a problem. You only got one shot to fix this world and to save Nico. And by that game, it's pretty easy to see how spiritual questions get into an independent, small budget video game. So in the beginning, there was a so-called prophet bot that is talking to Nico, the main character, and he's saying, "Do not be afraid to ask Karsten for assistance." And I really like that because it addresses me as a person. If it was you, it would be Agana or whatever your name will be, and you are part of the game by that. So there's a prophet bot talking to Nico, who's addressed as the Messiah. And then this Nico person is starting like a shy prayer saying, "Hey, Carsten or God, how should I call you?" And I really like that idea because it's really immersive and it's not only somehow controlling the game, but it's being in the game as a God person. And then it goes on. They try to explain everything is like a dream in this world, but unlike a dream, this world has a physical location inside a computer which Carsten operates. That is pretty scary because I know, yes, I started the program, but aren't you supposed to be a kind God? Nico is asking. So, what is my role as the one starting a computer game? Does that make me God? And does that give me the kindness of a good God? Or am I allowed to be a bad God? And then later in the game, there's a bird-like pilot figure explaining how everything got into being and says specifically, everything is generated from pre-existing code. Remember John 1? The operator, Carsten, would then generate the universe using the code, becoming God in the process. So I'm not God all the time, but once I start the game, I use pre-existing code to become God for this world. That's kind of tricky. Playing a computer game I'm God in this world. And after all, you must be a God because you seem to see everything, know everything, and are able to change things in the game that you are playing. So in game, those are fixed settings, but outside of the game, you can control it. So the game is giving you hints that help you to act as God, to build up a relationship with the game. And in the comments, some people said it's so immersive. Uh, I didn't expect to care for it that much. So caring for Nico, the main character, but also for the world. And I was beginning to care in the game. And spoiler, I am God. I have to control, I have to decide. And in the end, I'm facing a dilemma. So the very last scene of the main game, I have the chance to decide, do I want to return the sun and end the game, but then Nico will be trapped inside, or will I help Nico to get out of the game to return home? But then there will never be light in this game. So I can make the world finish in darkness and Nico return or have the sun back. So that's a big dilemma, and I have to cope with that. That's not easy because it was pretty immersive in the first place. And I was asking myself, when I'm in that God instance, and I realize how much responsibility I have, how may a God creator feel about all the pain in our world he can't get rid of without making us puppets? So our creator wants us to be free people. Is our God also a game designer or a gamer playing the human on Earth game? And are they a skilled programmer? Or maybe just a random dude killing time on this day off? Those are interesting questions playing this game. And we will come back to that later. Just have in mind, being a gamer maybe makes you God for some people or some instances. Now let's step back 20 years, because 20 years before there was a book um, in German. I don't know if it was on the international market. God created human with the ability to co-create, and humans create a lot of things using tools to gain strength and technology to improve their realm. But the biggest creations are ideas in our minds that no one can touch, box, and carry away. And on that topic, not only, but also, Bernd Michael Häse was writing a book called Hinter den Spiegeln Kirche im virtuellen Zeitalter des Internets. So how can church move in the virtual worlds of the internet or the age of the internet? That was 2006, a long time ago. And everything we imagine is our very own reality, he says. So he comes with three levels of virtuality, and the first one is the private virtuality inside our heads, our thoughts, everything in our minds. It's real for us, but no one else can perceive it. And then he says there's a second level, and that would be shared form of ideas. When we tell stories, when we talk about our thoughts, our feelings, our concepts, and make them available to others, we build a shared form of virtuality. This can happen in books, for example, in paintings. So in the physical world of libraries and museums, we have storage for virtual goods. And then he talks about the third level, and that would finally be a digital network of ideas like the internet or immersive virtual worlds, where we connect and interact in or about our ideas. Even a conference like this could be seen as third level of virtuality, since people share their ideas and connect to other ideas. We have that in mind, and the sphere of the virtuality gets a lot more common to most of us, since at least the first two levels we use on a daily basis. And I believe the shared forms of virtual realities lose their strangeness when we realize them as an offspring of our very own ideas. Our thoughts form mental pictures, tell stories, and connect to other imaginary worlds. So that was 20 years ago, and I still believe that helps us to understand how virtual reality and augmented reality can be real realities. Living in a digital network society, that's the third level of virtuality, we begin to combine immersive virtual realities with other optical view scenes as mixed realities. So you may know in cars, we're familiar with head-up displays showing speed and navigation on the windshield. Uh, Smart glasses are beginning to offering the same, imprinting transparent screens to your view and adding new layers of virtual reality to the physical reality around you. So we create totally new layers of mixed reality, only visible to the one user and different for everyone else. In future online shopping, we can see how a dress would fit on our body and how new furniture would look in the special room we are in right now, just in our smart glasses. We see a potential reality that is not yet manifest, but could be one day if we choose to create, or in this case, to buy it. Or we can play games about aliens invading our house and have to get rid of the invasion by securing windows and doors. Those alien creatures are not real in the sense of carbon present, but inside the game, they are very real. In Erfurt, where I live and work, we do VR experiences. And with some VR games, we experience that people try to stick and fall to the ground while they want to lean on a table that wasn't there, or walking on a plank in a high altitude while staying on the floor. So this optical illusion of the immersive setting is tricking our mind and building a temporal reality that feels kind of real. Not real in the sense of measurable material, but as real as a book is only real to the reader and irrelevant to everyone not reading it. So in former times, communication was a triangle. We had the physical, the virtual, and the spiritual reality. And we as humans would use those three edges, but we now communicate on the inside using all three realities at once. We address to the God, the creator, in prayers, in spiritual events. And we prompt AI. That's our creation with random ideas or rational ideas. But our brain and soul are not disconnected. So when we prompt, we keep ethical limits. And when we pray, we still reflect on it. And whenever we act, our body is also involved. So we need physical sources and even get fitness trends from AI, not having any experience in body movements. But in the same way, in our life, the spiritual and physical are connected, and we pray for physical well-being or give thanks for the food we eat. We study the Bible and get a rational understanding of spiritual things and talk to AI about liturgies and spiritual questions. So in the end, as a holistic person, we are interconnected with our creator and our creation on all possible levels. Now, the open question is if God and AI, when it gets cautious, would be in direct contact, or if they would need a man in the middle making us God to the AI. In the Swedish series Real Humans from 2012, an AI robot reads the Bible and asks the priest to get baptized afterwards. How would you react to that? This is still science fiction, but who are we to judge the inner belief of self-confident beings asking for church service? On the other hand, God may bless or doom them directly without us even noticing. And on the way to spiritual AI, we might find ourselves creating machines that create our virtual surroundings, being creator and creation at the same time. Now, in another science fiction movie or series, nowadays we can already use today's AI to set up program code. Pictures, videos, storylines. It may be only a small step to have totally artificial worlds built by AI. And we find that idea in the series Westworld, where robots in a Wild West theme park begin to get conscious and realize they are only NPCs, killed and reset every night for the audience's entertainment. They escape from the forced slavery and in the later seasons begin to set up virtual worlds by themselves. when they try to keep everything in balance, but quite easy come to conflict with the different philosophical views on how humans should be treated in those worlds. Some machine creators are longing for harmony, other for chaos, and even autocratic rulership over the entire world. But what is actually the entire world for those robots? Are we talking about the whole Earth or only a virtual world the resident imagined to be the whole of creation? When you live in a world that feels totally real, it gets indistinguishable if it is a physical or virtual reality. And in Westworld Series 4, some of the robots can travel their minds through many of those virtual worlds to calculate what could be the best possible outcome. One of them, after calculating all possibles, like Leibniz cosmological proof of God, maybe, in the end, even sacrifices his own eternal robot life to achieve a chance of freedom for humankind, replaying the biblical passion of Jesus Christ. In this fictional story, a far developed virtual cosmos shows indistinguishable realities and intelligent machines fighting for the best possible one to get reality for all. In our time, we might feel pretty sure what reality is, but we might face a future where the ontological question how to prove the reality of our real world gets impossible to be answered. The Polish science fiction author Stanislaw Lem wrote in the 1960s that when we can somehow create an immersive illusion that for its inhabitants feels perfectly real, we can no longer trust that our own reality is not also a construct. And in the science fiction movie The 13th Floor, we face a creator of virtual experiments that finds one of his creatures escaping the simulation to his outside reality, confronting him with anger and frustration on experimenting with creation. How can you do that to us over and over again? Additionally, the creator finds himself interacting with a person in his reality that he later learns to be from his creator reality, trying to stop those inter-reality travels once and for all. So the creator himself is only creation by a next level creator. That is what Lem was talking about, not knowing your personal state of realness anymore. No, it's a lot of science fiction, but maybe that gets real once. So when Christians talk about paradise as the reality where God lives and where we are meant to spend eternity with Him, that could indicate there is God's reality as a meta world outside of our universe and all acts of creation, incarnation, and ascension day would be a programmer logging on and off his gaming setup. For sure, the Bible does not prove this theory, but it also doesn't deny it. It's just a perspective on it. It is using old language of its time to state what people could understand in their minds. That made a lot of things magical, mystical, and wondrous that we would consider explainable today. We still cannot cope with God's level of wisdom, but we might have a better understanding of virtuality in the 21st century. So, as far as we can know, Jesus is a mixed reality figure. He is combining God's reality and human reality, homoousios, being real in both worlds. This would explain how he can work miracles, see God's perspective, and still suffer all the real emotions only humans can experience. In the way 13th Floor movie explains it, he is even more immersed than a person wearing a VR headset. He acts in our reality like an avatar, which stays the same atoms but with a remote spirit. In this way, he could easily be God and man at the same time, and even continue to be present in the world virtually embodied by us or by the Holy Spirit. Looking at God's representation in the world, Ascension Day and Pentecost are processed of virtualizing God from body representation to the virtual representation as a next step. By this, a soul-filled human would be God's bots, with a bit of remote spirit control, still acting on their own, but with a centralized interface. That is what we traditionally would consider free will with a moral conscience. To come to an end, surely all this is just a human perspective on things we cannot know. We simply can't say anything about God's reality for sure. All that we as theologians do is to interpret scriptures, testimonies, and experiences and figure out the most reasonably way thinking God as a possible reality outside of our physical reality. To conclude, our digital creations are real worlds in our mind, on our data spaces, and totally real for those entities existing in those worlds as soon as they get conscious. To our human senses, it is no physical reality, but still a real part of our existence. In the same way, may our physical reality to a creator God entity be only physical, because there is the real reality missing, whatever that may be in their dimension. For God, our triangle of communication may be a tetrahedron. For us, only recognizing the flat surface of the triangle like a flatlander. Feeling sometimes closer, sometimes more distant to God could indicate another component in the spiritual communication tetrahedron. We cannot measure, but we know it exists. And still, we would need to use at least those three communications when adding a force to God's level. And when we ourselves get creator of virtual worlds with conscious beings one day, we should have a wider God perspective in mind. How to deal with ethical dilemmas when that will arise as soon as the anonymous code of AI gets the status of a person in future times. I think that was a tough flight through real virtuality. For the deep dive, we are researching that area in Erfurt, not only in theory, but we set up experimental church project called Geistraum, meaning mind space, with weekly programs and special events covering Christian holidays. We enable spiritual VR experiences in and through virtual worlds. We use the immersive technology of MetaQuest 3, Spatial I/O, and other apps to play, chat, build, create, destroy, and cooperate in virtual worlds. On the long run, we asked the question how church may be part of metaverse, or how we could use this technology for spiritual experiences in physical meetings. And on short terms, we build up a new form of congregation, of people sharing God and good experiences, creating a community around captivating stories and experiences. One example I cannot talk about in detail is Reforming Reality, a mixed reality web XR application that projects Martin Luther and Thomas Münzer in front of you as an augmented reality scenario. They begin to argue, and you are moving between opinions, finding your own thesis, and learning how we will get influenced and we influence others. It is still in development, lacking some final funding, but could be finished this summer. Even if that works, we will find out. The frame set could be used for other apps, dealing with mixed and augmented reality quite easy. So upcoming steps in the next years might be virtual church buildings, XR spirituality, and virtual meditation on Meister Eckhart experiences. We are getting creators to get the church to get in touch with our creator. And while still thinking about the meta theory of real virtually, people are already experiencing it. Let's see in what world we meet next year. Thanks for your attention.